Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is, of course, your broadcaster, HD StarCraft, and I'm here to bring you guys another Heart of the Swarm broadcast. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, it looks like we're going to have the comeback of Desrow. He is going to be the red Protoss player. And over on the bottom left-hand corner, we've got a blue Terran here, new up-and-comer. His name is CattleBruiser. So it is going to be a Terran versus Protoss, and let me first say that this is a new map here in Heart of the Swarm. I actually have not seen or played a game on this map yet, so I don't know what the name of the map is, but I'm just going to give you guys a quick virtual tour here as HD, as your tour guide, the tour guide who doesn't even know this map. It looks like we've got a huge rock tower right here. I don't even know why. I guess if you kill it, it would block off this ramp, which does lead into a little expansion, which is then blocked off by debris. I don't know, something about StarCraft, Dustin Browder, and rocks, man. He sure does love him some rocks. We do have another building somewhere in the middle of the map here. I guess this is where the Terran's office home building would be, where they do their work. And we have more expansions up here in the top side. This is a 1v1 map, not a 4-player map. As you guys can see, it's not 4-way symmetrical, just 2-way symmetrical. And of course, they'll not get towers, because what StarCraft 2 map would not have towers on it? And there's a collapsible rock tower one more time. But wait, am I just tripping out right now? Or does this one, alright, so this rock tower does not have a rock that is blocked off, but this one does. Oh no, okay, alright, so I was looking at it the wrong way. This one is the appropriate one for Desrow, and then this one is the one for CattleBruiser. Anyways, let's see what happens here in this Protoss versus Terran. We've got Desrow here going for 1 gas, 2 gas. He's going to add on a gateway as well. Taking a look at the APM tab, because that's always important. CattleBruiser with only 36 APM. Is he playing with his toes right now? Is that even legal? He is playing at sub-diamond level APM right now. Of course, I always make fun of people, and I always make comments about high APM and low APM, but it actually doesn't really mean anything as long as your APM is efficient. And in fact, let's just take a look at the efficient APM, and there it is. Both players pretty, at least on the current scale, pretty close on the efficient APM. And Desrow right now is adding on a cybernetics core. We'll probably see a mothership core coming out pretty soon, because it is such a good unit. Early game against any race, it's a good unit to have around. The detection, the ability to overcharge a Nexus. This SCV is going around looking for a job right now, trying to apply into one of these many office buildings, but unfortunately being rejected. Is now going to be sent on a suicide mission to scout into the Protoss base, but as he comes up, there's already a Zealot there, so this is a risky life for Mr. CattleBruiser, the SCV. And it looks like he is going to see the other gas in the background, but one probe getting pulled off. So I guess what Desrow is doing here is just mining those 3 extra probes on that secondary gas, so that he could get warp gate, so that he could get mothership core and get a stalker out on the field. It's actually pretty hard to do that if you're only on 1 gas, but you don't need that second gas for much longer after that. So now this SCV is going out. Wow, he is brave, man. I'm surprised he didn't get a job. Ballsy SCV goes down. May everyone ever remember CattleBruiser's SCV. Desrow here looking to maybe throw up a Nexus, and most likely will be, but he does have his mothership core moving out across the map right now. The Nexus is coming up on the minimap. And this is interesting. Desrow might look to be pretty aggressive, but CattleBruiser's already got a bunker at the ramp, so that's going to make it hard for the Zealot and the Stalker to make it their way in. But what about the mothership core? It is going to fly in here, and it is equipped with the aerial to surface attack, and it's going to start to blast down these SCVs, but there are 4 Marines here, and you can see the mothership core really doesn't have that much health, so it doesn't really want to risk itself for no apparent reason. And Desrow now going to try to go in with the Zealot and Stalker. He is going to focus on that SCV first. Nice micro, picks off 1 worker, and that's going to make it harder for this bunker to be repaired. That Zealot also made it out before it died, so 27 HP attached to that Zealot, and it will begin to regenerate its shields. CattleBruiser right now adding on a factory with reactor. He is making Hellions, and he could go for Hellbats as well if he so desires. He will need an armory first. And of course, he could always make the Widow Mines, which are just amazingly good, especially against Protoss. Desrow back at home is adding on a for sure Stargate. Yeah, there we go. Stargate is down, and he is going to go for Oracles, so we're not going to see the Phoenix play that he did against a Protoss player last game. He is going to go for Oracle play here, and this Mothership Core really ballsy flying in here. I mean, yeah, it is one big ball, but come on, man, that's scary stuff. Going to go out right now and not risk herself, because all it would take is 4 Marines like that, and that Mothership Core would go down very, very quickly. But at least he gets in there, tries to do a scout, and now is relaying all of his units to go back home. So the Protoss is now in full retreat. Not going to try to contain the Terran player, which oftentimes doesn't work out too well. But we do have the Terran player coming out right now with 4 Hellions inside of Medevac. And these Hellions could look to do some damage, but 2 Oracles also using the same flight path as the Medevac. So we'll both... Oh, wait, maybe not the same flight path. It looks like their longitude was just off by a few degrees. So both of these drops are... Well, one drop and one designed to kill buildings are going to go by unnoticed. And so the Oracles are flying in here, but there's a Viking and 4 Marines. So these Oracles are going to have a very hard time doing any damage. I think they should pull out. And it looks like they're just trying to figure out where they want to go. Honestly, this is a risky time for those Oracles to be here, but if there's ever a time for Oracles to go harass, it is, of course, in the early game, despite there being a Viking on the field. Meanwhile, the Hellions have dropped off into the main base, but that is going to be handled pretty easily with the Photon Overcharge, Stalkers, and... of course, just, yeah, shutting that down. So no worries there. Meanwhile, Desrow really wants to get this supply depot down. He's putting it on fire. But a lot of SCVs and meals coming to repair that up, so it doesn't look like these Oracles really killed off anything. I'm trying to see if there's like a buildings lost tab, but it doesn't appear to be there. So I don't think these Oracles really did much so far. Maybe just harassing CattleBruiser a little bit, although CattleBruiser needs to tell these workers to go back to mining. And finally they go back, so lazy SCV and meal there, but CattleBruiser does end up losing a little mining time. So perhaps those Oracles did end up working out pretty well. These Hellions right now just taking a bit of a break under the shade provided by the buildings. It must be pretty hot in there. I mean, come on, they're Hellions. Yeah, you know, they're always launching fire everywhere, so they're just taking a break right now. But the Oracle is gonna fly in and see those Hellions. And now Desrow's got to be thinking, all right, why do you have Hellions hiding there? And, you know, with the appropriate forces at the front door, it's unlikely that they will really be able to do any damage. But there is another medevac coming around the down south with 4 more Hellions. So he is going to go for another drop. You'll note siege mode is on the way along with +1 weapons. Desrow right now adding on his Colossus, so he is going to look to go for the higher tech availability here for Protoss. And whoa, recalls his whole army away. I don't know where he brought them. Looks like he brought them all the way back home into his main base. It looks like those Hellions were dropped, and that was the reason for that. And he should be able to hold these off, but he loses some probes, in fact. 12 probes have already gone down, and still probes going down at the natural expansion. So CattleBruiser able to get in with a double drop. These 3 Hellions were actually ran in over here when they were chilling in the shade, and the other Hellions came in from the drop, and he was actually able to do some pretty good damage there, putting Desrow down to 40 workers and killing off 16 probes. Now, Desrow may be looking to pay back a little bit, but unfortunately for him, Oracles cannot laser down SCVs, but what they can do is drop a Time Warp field on the mineral patch, and that could be pretty effective. We'll see if he decides to risk running the Oracles in, because of course there is a cattle-bruising Viking there. And, you know, Oracle is a pretty expensive unit. We do have Desrow moving out right now with his Colossus and backup. He has a 3rd Nexus as well. Those Hellions were able to see the 3rd Nexus. No, actually they were not. Look at the Fog of War, just literally right there. Meanwhile, the Oracles are trying to run in, but they were not able to get past the Viking. So a little bit of cowardice right there from Desrow's Oracles, because for sure he could run them in and drop a Time Warp field pretty easily, and I think he would be able to get out as well. But he ends up not risking it. He also sends in a hallucinated Phoenix to find out what's going on. 5 factories from CattleBruiser, so you can bet your butt here we are going to have full-on mech from the Terran player. He is not going for Hellbats, nor is he going for Widow Mines. Rather, he's going for it's like a biomech army supplemented with Vikings. This is interesting, and biomech traditionally isn't very good against Protoss because well, Protoss can just get Templar and Storm, and that kind of dominates tanks and Marines. So this might not work out too well for CattleBruiser if Desrow decides to go up for Templars, and he is now adding on in Templar Archives, not to mention charge lots on the way too, which absolutely wreck siege tanks. They can just run in there, get in melee range, and then, oh, the tanks are done for. But one thing going okay for CattleBruiser is he does have the 3rd expansion secured. Looks like this tank is trying to fly off the cliff right now, along with the SCVs. Unfortunately, they cannot, and they are being blocked in right now by supply depots. I hate it when that happens, and CattleBruiser needs to actually lower those so he can clear a pathway. And finally, now those tanks, the tank and those SCVs will be able to get down there. And looks like right now CattleBruiser is losing the resources lost game. You know, Desrow has just done a better job of dealing damage this game, but one thing to note is Desrow has lost more workers. He lost in total about 16 workers, only compared to 2 workers that he's killed. He is adding on a lot more gateways right now though, and is going to look to ramp up his army production. Also has Storm on the way as well. Look at these Oracles, they are flying back in. Are they going to drop a Time Warp Field? No, they're going to try to laser down a refinery. Whoa, that Oracle is just getting too close for comfort and has to back out of there. And I'm so surprised that Desrow isn't just dropping a Time Warp bomb on the SCVs. Effectively, Time Warp is basically the Entomb ability, because you drop it down and then the SCVs can't mine as efficiently as they would normally be able to. Very similar to Entomb, but just, I guess, not as annoying because you don't have to kill off the fields, which, you know, presents a micro nightmare for a lot of players. But yeah, I'm surprised he didn't actually try to go in there and drop a Time Warp. We do have CattleBruiser going in with 4 more Hellions. These Hellions have been the bane of Desrow so far, and it looks like that nightmare is just going to keep going on and on and on. CattleBruiser runs in, still hasn't lost a Hellion yet. Looks like the gateways are not ready to cycle in a new round. There is a Photon Cannon here, but that's offering very measly protection against these Hellions, which are going to roast up probes now up to a number like 30? Not really, up to 28, so close, but not 30, but still a lot of workers killed so far. And I've got to say that is one thing that CattleBruiser is doing exceptionally well and is helping him stay in this game. In fact, if you look at his supply right now, he's at 153 supply. He's adding on 2 more macro orbitals. He is just looking so good, and I don't know why Desrow is only at 110 supply and he's floating 2k, 1k. This is certainly what you would not expect from a player of Desrow's caliber. I'm not too sure what he's waiting for. It looks like his warp gates are just all on cooldown. He just doesn't have the ability to make new units, and so he's floating a stratospheric amount of minerals and a little bit of gas as well. But, you know, right now he's not in any danger because the Terran player isn't pushing out. CattleBruiser seems like he's content to just play macro and sit back, so Desrow will have an opportunity to cycle out the rest of his money pretty soon here. But we do have that Phoenix trying to control the middle airspace and encounters a flock, not a flock, but a fleet of Vikings, and that went down pretty quickly. Now, if CattleBruiser decides to land these Vikings, that would be pretty bold, because Vikings are just pathetic when they go into ground mode. And yes, that Viking died, so really no chance for that poor guy. Meanwhile, Stalker's taking control or just tagging the top Xel'Naga tower, and both players right now are on 4 bases, so it is going to be a full-on macro game here. And while the supplies look pretty bad for Desrow, look at his bank. He's just got so much money, although the Terran player CattleBruiser also has quite a bit of money as well. So I don't know what's going on right now, but we do have more CCs coming out from the Terran player. He's just going CC crazy right now. He's making them all over the place, and he's gonna have like probably about 8 to 9 orbital commands here, which is just a redonkulous amount. He's also gonna capture another expansion, although there are 2 oracles here and a warp prism. Is Desrow going to go ahead and drop his Templar down? No, it looks like he's going to go ahead and fly past enemy airspace and look to drop him into the natural. Now changing his mind. No, now going to go back into the Terran expansion. And will he drop the Templar down? Yes, he gets the Templar down. Will he be able to get a Storm before CattleBruiser can pull the SCVs away? Oh, he gets the 2 Storms down, and CattleBruiser with a very lackluster response And although these 2 Templars are going to die, they served their job well. Looks like the War Prism he came in and he was like, come on, Templar, get inside, hurry up, there's millions of Vikings here, what are you doing? And the Templars are just a little bit slow to respond. I guess that's what happens when you blow your whole energy load. Just get a little bit tired. So CattleBruiser able to get rid of the 2 Templar, but he did lose some SCVs. A lot of Stalkers coming up here. Still have Oracle backup, but that command center has now transformed into a planetary fortress. And I don't know about Stalkers against a planetary fortress. It's usually not very effective, but since the PF doesn't have range yet, he's just going to hide behind the mineral stacks and I guess wait to pick off SCVs. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, but the whole Terran army is coming, or at least the whole Terran army was coming. Now it's just going to be 1 or 2 siege tanks. Actually, yeah, the whole Terran army is coming. So that Stalker army probably is going to die off, but not before they pick off a couple of SCVs. And now the supply is actually dead even at 170 apiece. And it's actually interesting you have this right now because neither Protoss or Terran is maxing out their army. And the reason for that is both of them are going into Sky mode. We have Desrow going into mass Tempest production, so he doesn't want to clog up his supply with gateway units. He wants to make huge amounts of Tempest here, which are a deadly unit against Terran. Against mech in general, Tempests are extremely good. And same reason being, CattleBruiser sees, hey, you're making a lot of Tempests, so I'm going to make a lot of Vikings, and that's clogging up, well, he doesn't want to clog up his supply with lesser ground units. So this is interesting. Both players have the capability to max, but neither player has actually gone the distance yet. One scan now going to reveal those 2 Stalkers. If he destroys this rock tower, that would probably help him defend that location a little bit better. But doesn't look like he's going to do that. We do have a War Prism coming in now. In the backside, it does see the Ghost Academy, and it looks like he's going to drop the Zealots off to go for the Ghost Academy. If he can cancel the Cloak upgrade, that would be nice. He doesn't have to deal with the invisible assassins that are capable of EMPing the Protoss army, but it looks like Blue Flame Hellions are coming. And those Zealots are completely going to die. But reinforcements arriving from the War Prism. That's a lot of Zealots, in fact. And it looks like they were able to kill off a decent amount of SCVs in the main base, so not too shabby from those Zealots with 3 shields and 2 weapons. They're no joke, even against Blue Flame Hellions. But here comes Desrow with a lot of Tempest and his Colossus Templar army. I don't know if he wants to run into all these siege tanks and Vikings, though. That would be a pretty risky proposition. The Zealots are still alive inside of CattleBruiser's base, trying to desperately get rid of them. And the one question I want to ask right now is CattleBruiser going to go for battle cruisers? Because, you know, staying true to his name, and you know what, battle cruisers are a pretty good unit. I guess not that great against Tempest, but with Yamato Cannon, they could theoretically work against Tempest because Yamato has a decent amount of range, and a couple of Yamato blasts and a Tempest would die. So, interesting. I think right now he's just sticking to Mass Vikings, though. And if he's going to stick to Mass Vikings, Storm is actually deadly effective against that. And all the Vikings are clumped up right now, but they get a snipe off on a Tempest before the Templar could get in range. Interesting compositions from both sides as 4 Dark Templar make their way in. They kill off the Ghost Academy. So, CattleBruiser cannot make any more Ghosts right now. And meanwhile, expansionists galore as 2 Stalkers just kind of holding off the position between those 2 bases. Tempest getting up very large in number. Right now they have 112 upgrades, and this is more than enough Tempest to take out these Vikings. A Storm coming down as well. CattleBruiser has to get out of the way. Meanwhile, Dark Templar continuing to wreak havoc inside the Terran base. 45 SCVs now for CattleBruiser, who's lost quite a bit. It seems like he might have thrown away a lot of his SCVs on purpose, though, because he has so many orbital commands, which is totally fine. He was able to clean up the Dark Templar threat in his main base, but now it looks like Desrow is mobilizing on the ground with a very large Protoss army, going to be able to take out one of the CCs. CattleBruiser with no response quite yet, trying to send the Vikings in, but they just get molested by the amount of Tempest on the field. And look at this, Tempest only has 6 HP. One more volley would have been able to finish it off, but he wasn't able to get it. And now the Planetary Fortress is in trouble, trying to get mass repair down. Oh, the Vikings! Oh, that's brutal. And these Vikings don't have any upgrades either, so they just get absolutely face stomped when fighting up against those Tempests, which right now are at 112. And this is going to just be a siege on this Planetary Fortress, but with all the mules and SCVs repairing, that should be able to stay up. But now the mules are expiring, and mules repair 2 times faster than SCVs, so with the mules dying off, That planetary fortress is going down. It's dropping now to below 700, below 600, and below 500. It's on fire, and it looks like the planetary is going to go down. CattleBruiser says, screw it, I'm over it. I'm just going to move out now with everything I've got, and I guess look to make something happen. But this Warp Prism, oh, the wall of turrets meets you. And down goes the Warp Prism. So CattleBruiser now pushing out with his siege tanks and his ghost army. Does he have enough firepower to take out a base? I think he does, but there are 2 DTs here. He needs to desperately drop a Comsat or an EMP Shockwave. He doesn't see it though. He doesn't see it. Those DTs are just demolishing his tank line. He does get a kill on the Nexus though, but he needs to just desperately drop an EMP Shockwave. The ghosts are actually being focused by I don't know what they were getting focused by, but they were taking damage. And now finally, it looks like the Protoss army from Desrow coming back to assist the Dark Templar, and the Dark Templar are still alive. They've killed off so many tanks already that Colossus does go down as the Vikings are in full-on retreat. And right now, CattleBruiser's Vikings have got to be asking, what the hell happened to the rest of my Terran army? Where is my backup? So they are now in full retreat. These are the only 2 remaining units that could make it home. And you know what? I feel like Desrow only let them go home so they could send a message back to CattleBruiser's army. Don't mess with Tempests. And now it looks like these Tempests are still just harassing the economy, but there should be more than enough Vikings here for the blue Terran player to be able to take those down. But oh no, that planetary in a lot of trouble, and unfortunately it doesn't look like the storm is just ripping through everything. And I guess the problem here is CattleBruiser just hasn't found a way to deal with Mass Tempest. They're such a good unit now for Protoss, and it's actually really hard. Terran players are struggling right now to figure out the right way to combat that. Mass Vikings, it doesn't really work because of Storm. That's the problem. And so you have to kind of go with a Viking Ghost composition, because then the Ghost can neuter the Templar. But still a very deadly strategy that Protoss are really starting to use. First saw White Red do it against Terrans with Mass Tempest, and now a lot of Protoss are starting to make it happen. And still, Terran, I don't think, have a proper response to this. We can see just how good they are against mech in general. Maybe Widow Mines. Maybe Widow Mines would work pretty well. If you could just go mass Widow Mine and burrow them under the Tempests, you might be able to kill off a lot of Tempests, but unfortunately for CattleBruiser, he doesn't have it. And now he's going to lose a lot of factories in the main base. He's also lost an expansion down here as well. What kind of army is the Terran player working with? Not really much of one at all, just a measly amount of tanks and some Vikings, so it will not be enough here for CattleBruisers. He calls out no balance problems here. So I guess the blue Terran here definitely has something to say with regards to Heart of the Swarm balance, and maybe has something to say about that release date that Blizzard is planning for Heart of the Swarm. So yeah, Tempest's really good. And oh yeah, I've got to give out a Heart of the Swarm beta key. I totally forgot. So get ready, guys. I'm going to give out a beta key right now, and the question of the day is going to be, if you guys watched my stream for the RSL Season 2 Finals, and you should know the answer to this, who won the $3,000 first place prize in RSL, the Rhythmic StarCraft League, the Russian StarCraft League Season 2? That winner was decided a couple of nights ago, just last night actually. And if you guys can post the answer down below, then you guys will get a Heart of the Storm beta key. So good luck, have fun, and this is HD signing out.